Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the special edition of This Just In Radio. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. Today, we're broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in sunny Las Vegas. Very excited to be here. It's already been an action-packed 72 hours. The HIMSS annual conference is always a centerpiece of my annual schedule, and this happens to be my 25th HIMSS annual conference and my 11th year broadcasting from the annual conference. Even in 2020, the COVID year, we still had the broadcast and all of the same amazing guests. We just hosted this broadcast remotely and all of my guests dialed in. Many of the same leaders you're going to hear today and over the next couple of days, like Hal Wolf, Rasu Shrestha, Anish Chopra, and many more familiar names. I feel very fortunate to be able to broadcast annually from HIMSS. Hal Wolf, Albie Zakes, Morgan Searles, and the entire HIMSS team have been extremely supportive, and I'm extremely and tremendously grateful. Also, I can make a special note of thanks to Roberta Mullen, Greg Masters, Carol Flagg, and the entire Healthcare Now radio team for their tremendous support and managing the demands of my HIMSS broadcasts annually and the recordings. Also, I'm eternally grateful to all of my hundreds of guests throughout the years and certainly to all of my loyal listeners. We owe all of this show's success to you, and we still are so honored to have won the Sway Health 2024 Healthcare Podcast of the Year award that never gets old, but rather challenges us to get better every day with every broadcast and every conference. Which leads us to today. This is the start of 3 days, 5 shows, and over 40 guests here in Las Vegas for HIMSS25. We have our best lineup yet of CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, care providers, researchers, policy leaders, and visionaries joining this show. As many of you know, my goal for broadcasting live each year from these key conferences is to create an information medium that shares best practices, key strategies, and actionable intelligence from the industry's leading sources and experts. My objective, along with all my guests here, will be to offer tactics and strategies to not only survive, but to thrive as you navigate your hospital, your physician practice, your company, or even your family through all these changes occurring across healthcare today. There is more opportunity than ever before for all of us to thrive, but we must understand how healthcare is evolving, how policy and reimbursement is shifting, and where best practices and innovation can support our efforts. I hope you glean all of this over the next few days. That's at least my goal. Welcome back to This Just In Radio Show, broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in the AMD booth in sunny Las Vegas. Very excited to introduce my next guest, a new friend of the show, Carl Brown, General Manager, Business Development with Supermicro. Welcome to the show, Carl.
Thanks, Justin. How you doing?
Fantastic, fantastic. When did you get in town?
We came in late last night.
Late last night?
Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you fly in from?
San Jose, California, of course.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. I lived in Palo Alto for a year. Actually lived in Palo Alto for a year, and then also 201 Harrison Street in the city in San Francisco for another year or so.
Very nice.
Yeah, know the area fairly well.
Yeah, very happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
You got it anytime, my friend. Tell me about your shoes. Tony was like loving your shoes.
Well, a little Givenchy never hurt nobody.
I love them. It's also very smart. We have a lot of steps around here and being in very comfortable shoes, which I am not in. So you're much smarter than I am.
So, that was the thing. That was the conversation with a couple of my team members. They're like, hey, what are you wearing to HIMSS? I'm like, tennis shoes. It's another trade show. We're going to do a lot of walking.
Absolutely.
So designer tennis shoes is the thing to do.
Yeah. This is actually my 25th HIMSS, but I need to learn how to wear tennis shoes better because these suckers. The good thing is I'm sitting a lot, and I am wearing my AMD. You see that, Ryan? I'm wearing my AMD booth. Look at
that's quite the
AMD
style.
Socks. Yes,
that's quite the style there.
I love it. Yep. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and dive into the show now since we have the fun stuff out of the way. First of all, I guess, what are your goals for being here at HIMSS25? Before we dive in deep. What are your
really, we're trying to see what the latest and greatest trends are.
Yep.
So many companies, and within the segment, right, you have a segment of verticals of verticals, right?
Yep.
So healthcare providers, payers, you've got life sciences and things of that nature. So a lot of what's going on in the healthcare services and systems are being displayed out here over the next 3 days.
Yeah.
So want to really see what's going on, dive deep in the agentic workflows that they're doing, AI trends that are happening, and how those services are being delivered and innovated.
Awesome. How long have you been in healthcare? How many years have you been in healthcare?
I've been a more horizontal healthcare guy. So I've sold software for years.
Yeah.
I've been a part of Intel for 14 years. So I've always been a horizontal solutions guy.
Yep.
In healthcare, this is our first look. So Supermicro is going through a lot of verticalization.
Yes.
So I'm pioneering that on my team, and this is our kind of first splash into healthcare, life sciences.
Love it. Well, you got a phenomenal partner here with AMD. So what progress are you most excited to see in the industry today in healthcare?
Oh my God, there's so many, but if I can think about just one or few, it would just be the introduction of AI in all of these, particular segments, specifically in the life sciences and drug discovery area. Pathology specifically, and how quickly things are being innovated in that space. It's exciting to watch.
So I'll give you a second. I don't usually do sales pitches at all on air. However, what is Supermicro? Tell me a little bit more about Supermicro, because I actually personally, I know I've heard the brand, but what exactly do you do?
My role or us?
Supermicro,
Okay,
as a company,
We're the race cars for AI.
Okay.
Right? We build the engines. We build the cars that power this entire AI transformation that's happening.
Love it.
Right? So there's 3 categories. You can kind of look at it in 3 different categories with AI. You basically have your parameters, right? And then you have your data sets, and then you have compute. Okay. So we're in the compute area. Okay. We have some of the most innovative, bleeding edge compute platforms that are powering the entire revolution, liquid cooling, and then data center building blocks with our server building blocks. Okay. So it's an open way, you can have it your way. And AMD is a big part of that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you use obviously AMD's processors and all that good stuff to fuel your centers. So the AMD brand new Turin is an excellent platform. We've got their GPUs, their MI300s and their MI325Xs, powering that next wave of innovation with AI as well.
Love it, love it. So what trends are you seeing in the industry today?
Biggest ones, as I mentioned before, is drug discovery. And how quickly drugs that used to take us years to put together. And now, really, it's a matter of months. And the higher end platforms that you can create, the models that are being created with less side effects, and the more introductions, the new introductions of the drugs that'll treat things like cancer, diabetes, and other dangerous and harmful diseases to cure some of those is actually really exciting.
Yeah, actually, that was my dinner last night. So we work also with AWS pretty closely, and one of the dinners that we fostered last night, or helped host, was around cancer registries, and a lot of the academic medical centers and researchers kind of coming together to collaborate, specifically in pediatric cancer and cancers wrapped around that. So it's actually fascinating. And
one of the biggest I've seen so far is the announcement just this year with, I think it was NVIDIA and Mayo Clinic, or did something. Mayo Clinic's doing something around what they're called digital humans.
Yes. Yes.
So they're gonna imagine a digital twin of yourself that they can practice, do drug treatment, experimentation on with surgical precision. That is amazing.
Well, and I love that, because and a couple of my guests before, we did a lot of shows already today, and a couple of my guests brought up that we're going to have these digital twins, basically, and that's going to what that's going to bring to us, and how we can learn and how we can interact and learn about ourselves and create the best care plans in partnership with our providers. That's all on the way. It's basically happening today in a lot of ways at a small scale, but it's about to go mainstream.
Exactly.
So I love it. Very exciting. So what are a few best practices that you would offer, or that you've seen to navigate those trends that you talked about there?
Engage early and often, right? You have to be a part of this, so workflows, and then creating partnerships, right? Because what we're finding is that it's sort of segmented and fragmented amongst the healthcare space, right? Everybody with data sovereignty. Kaiser may have a different set. Johnson & Johnson has their own set. So you need a sort of a conglomerate, right? And you have to have a collaborative approach. So these partnerships between NVIDIA and Mayo Clinic and these other, it's needed so that you can unlock the data, right? And bring this data together and actually create a sort of a conglomerate consortium. For best practices, right? And guide rails and health and security, HIPAA compliancy. That's so much. If AI is to be successful, we definitely have to have guardrails and compliance.
Yeah, you're actually speaking from a good friend of mine, John Halamka, is actually my most consistent guest, or at least my most frequent guest, is John Halamka from Mayo Clinic. So you brought up Mayo a couple times, but also John created this help co-chair and found the Coalition for Health AI, and that's exactly creating these guardrails for AI and responsible use of AI inside society, inside of our countries, our companies and countries, and on and so forth. So, but you brought up Mayo because they're phenomenal partners in what they do.
That's right.
So, love it. So, thinking beyond today, what's a key strategy or best practice we need to be ready to navigate in 2 to 3 years from now? What do you think?
Oh God. 2 to 3 years is so
it's a long time away. I know, I get it in healthcare.
So
absolutely.
Best practices that I can think of is, to really define the value that you want to derive out of AI.
Yes.
Right?
Great
Because that's going to be the sustainable foundation for you, right? So if you don't have a vision or strategy around it, you're just sort of following the trends, you're going to kind of be dependent, right? And so creating your own value practice, your own value chain for what you're doing with your data and models is going to sustain, because now you're going to have things like Jevons paradox that actually raises all boats, right? And it's going to be proliferated everywhere.
Right.
And there's going to be saturation or data overwhelming. Like, it's going to be completely overwhelming, and you're going to get sort of lost in the sauce without your own, take on it.
Yep.
Right. So you got to have that practice. You got to create the best practice, that one that creates value for you and your customers.
So that theme, rising tide raises all boats, was the theme from our dinner last night. Literally, and like you were in the room.
How did I miss this dinner?
I know. And then you bring up John Alama, you bring up Mayo Clinic. I'm like, this guy's like you're part of my show. I don't even know it somehow. This is pretty cool. You're everywhere. At least your wisdom is, for sure. So I got in the kind of closing minute or here, a couple minutes here. What do you hope to do, last couple of days here in Las Vegas and with the show, and what do you want to achieve here?
So literally, at this particular show, it's really understanding and helping our customers and at large understand what the compute platform is, right? And why it's so critical to the outcomes and the workflows and the things that they're doing here, right? I was with Honeywell just a little while ago talking to them about, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, we kind of make the race cars. And they're like, okay. And so explaining to them what the data center building blocks are, what our compute platform does, and how quickly it creates innovation for them. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Right.
So if I can do some more evangelism of Supermicro as a brand, as well as our compute platforms, our portfolio, that's what I'm hoping to do. Yeah,
I mean, I that's why I asked you in the beginning, tell me more about Supermicro, because I hear your name a lot from Tony. Tony Nunes, he loves you guys, but I'm glad we got this chance to catch up. Is there one or two companies that you would love to meet while you're here, or that you plan to meet while you're here? Who's that? Outside of AMD.
So Epic, largest, platform,
EHR,
for healthcare. So they're number one. And then I saw, I'd like to meet up with ServiceNow. They're doing a lot with agentic AI workflows in their delivery platform. I'd like to understand more about that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Those are great vendors here for sure. Right. Carl Brown, thank you so much for joining us on air, and we look forward to having you back soon.
All right.
Appreciate you, man.
Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome back to This Justin Radio Show, broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in the AMD booth in sunny Las Vegas. I'm very excited to introduce my next guest. Didn't realize this is also going to be my final guest for this broadcast.
So are you saving the best for last?
I am. Of course I am, Tony.
All right.
New friend of the show, Tony Black, Global Director for Healthcare, Privacy, and Digital Transformation with Kyndryl. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Before we go too far, hair and makeup, are we good? Are we both all right? Any powdered up? No shine? Okay. Fantastic. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Fantastic. When did you get in town?
I got in on Sunday afternoon.
Same here. Did you have the crosswinds at all? Did you get the plane? We almost crashed coming in. We had our jet boarded the landing and had to circle around.
Well, we were a little bumpy.
Okay.
Yeah, they sat everybody down. They took the snacks away, and everybody was buckled up for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, so we were not. Yeah, actually, we flew in from Sarasota, but went through LA, and they wouldn't even let us out of our seats from LA to here, and then we had to abort our landing. I was texting all my friends, I love y'all, But it's good times though. What do you hope to achieve while you're here?
Well, definitely want to meet as many clients as we can, have as many valuable meetings as we can. Talk about strategies with partners, yourselves, as well, and then have steps for processes for going forward after the conference.
So, I guess specifically, what are your, looking out of the room, what are you most excited about seeing and who's here right now?
Well, a couple of key things that I'm pretty excited about is AI.
Yep.
Generative AI, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Also IoT, Internet of Medical Things,
yep.
as well as sustainability, right? So those are three big things. So with the generative AI, I mean, the biggest thing there is that technology, that data can create new things based on data it's already learned.
Yep.
Right? So it can improve the way doctors create personal treatment plans.
Absolutely.
And also faster drug development. Right?
Excellent.
And IoT, that's a huge thing, right? I mean, AI and technology is in solutions more so than it ever has been before.
Very true. What's Kyndryl's goal? So tell me about Kyndryl a little bit. I've heard about them. I've been friends with AMD for a long time, even AWS. But tell me a little bit about Kyndryl.
Well, Kyndryl, we focus on infrastructure services.
Okay.
And our goal within the healthcare industry is to work with the payers, providers, pharmaceuticals, biotech firms to help drive efficiency, to help them focus on patient outcomes. And be able to deliver much faster, higher quality.
Yep.
So
Excellent.
we're driving value.
Yep.
That's the thing. That's the key. If you're not driving value, then what are you doing?
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. Certainly nowadays. I mean, that's actually doing more with less is one of the themes a lot of my guests have brought up. We're going to be entering a new phase, and a lot of us say we need to embrace it and accept it and actually be happy with it. Create a more efficient, maybe more effective healthcare system moving forward. So that all comes down to value for sure.
Absolutely.
So what trends, kind of dive into some of the questions, what trends are you seeing out in the industry that we need to be ready to navigate?
Well, you have things like AI-powered tools that are driving things like ambient listening, diagnostic imaging for increased efficiency.
Yep.
Also, value-based care, a shift from fee-for-service models to value-based care models, emphasizing patient outcomes.
Yep.
A greater focus around health equity initiatives and mental focus. But you also have technology leaders who are actually trying to need that new approach between driving home privacy policies and implementing the cybersecurity rules and goals and practices with them.
Yep.
And then also the business leaders, right, who are actually using data to increase and achieve goals.
Yeah.
So you have CIOs thinking more like CFOs because they need to get rid of the silos and drive transformation.
Right.
And that's really key, driving transformation, because that involves modernization, okay, and efficiency.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're trying to do.
So kind of feeding on that, I completely agree. So what are some best practices to move in that direction would you give to a CIO or to CTO or healthcare system in general?
Well, a couple of things. First thing is we need to simplify the platforms and create and invest in better models to help us collaborate more and closer and support more with clinicians and clinical workflows.
Yep.
And then the second thing is I'm a big governance guy.
Yep.
So being big on governance, my technical side says we need to address standards, methods, frameworks, and models. But you also look, my privacy side says you got to be concerned with policies, processes,
Absolutely.
Procedures, and compliance.
Absolutely.
So any solid business plan or business strategy is going to have those elements in their governance plan.
Yep.
So as you address an area or function that's broken or in need of something, you need to create and address a plan to drive that practice, to drive that behavior, supply the people who are responsible for it with tools and resources so they can adopt it.
It's excellent.
And then you got to make management and leadership accountable for it to drive home the importance of it. Because if people don't think it's important or they don't think it's primary, they're not going to focus on it.
Absolutely.
And it's going to hurt you when you try to be valuable and beneficial to the industry.
Yep, very excellent point. I guess following up on that, what are some examples that you work on today in that direction? So give us from Kyndryl's perspective.
Well, from Kyndryl's perspective, we work closely with a lot of payers and providers, addressing their business challenges, looking at their goals and what they're trying to face, and then we try to find the gaps and the nuances of where we can actually implement some efficiencies and some growth, and to help them move forward. Reduce waste, reduce time, drive value, and drive benefit.
Love it. Excellent. So thinking beyond today, what's a couple of strategies from 2 to 3 years from now that we need to be ready to navigate?
That is a good question.
It's a hard question.
Well, the first thing is Kyndryl did a readiness report, and we found out that the majority of healthcare leaders believe that their IT systems are best of class today. Their current IT infrastructure is best of class. Mm-hmm. However, only a third of them think that it's built for and ready to manage future risks. So future-proofing for hospitals and their facilities is key. The second thing, I'll sum it up with this, is the growth and evolution and maturity of AI. as we go along this AI journey, we continue to have to evaluate, reevaluate, and know where to make adjustments as we define and redefine our needs, goals, and wants. Because that journey is going to continue, so we need to address that. Because information awareness and knowledge we want to keep, but you have to couple that with responsibility, accountability, and trust.
Yeah.
And that's really key, because you don't. The other balance is, as you look into that, you want to keep and maintain the innovation and creativity that AI delivers, but you still want some management and control out of that.
Absolutely. So
things don't get out of hand, because you still want to be able to drive and move forward in a planned manner.
Right. So think about, actually, to follow on there, because we have an extra minute or so. What would you be most excited about with GenAI? Because when I think about GenAI, I love what it does for care and automation and efficiencies there, but I'm actually an interoperability guy, kind of back in my past a little bit too. I'm looking forward to how GenAI can help us with data interoperability. But what about your thoughts?
Well, that's key. That's big, because that's always been a problem, right? As when you look at the healthcare ecosystem, payers, providers, clearinghouse, medical device manufacturers, pharmaceuticals, biotech firm, as you navigate as a patient, your data is traveling through the entire ecosystem.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Exactly.
Hopefully, yeah.
All of those systems, all of those teams, all of them looking at it with a different lens, a different perspective, but the systems are talking to one another.
Right.
So yeah, if GenAI can help drive better interoperability and solve that problem, that's key.
Yep.
That's a home run.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a grand slam.
Absolutely. So when you think about GenAI, what would you like to see? What problem would you love to see it solve specifically for you and your thoughts?
Probably the main thing would be the data interoperability.
Good.
So that because that's the ecosystem.
Yep.
So that needs to be smoother. It needs to be more efficient. It needs to be more secure, and we need to control the accessibility and the security around that.
Right.
So those are key elements and areas that need to be paid attention to with data interoperability.
Yeah, and we had a dinner Monday night with actually AWS, and we're doing a whole clinical research strategy on pediatrics and oncology. And one of their big calls to the market is to use FHIR as a standard. Because we aren't going to recognize the promise of AI if we don't have interoperability. And so we've got to do that at a higher scale, and certainly get these institutions doing that, even on the research side, because that's where we want to, we can cure cancer much more quickly if we have that interoperability and we start to share our data and monetize it together in that capacity for care. So. Anyhow.
I agree with that 1,000%, but I didn't get an invite to the dinner.
The dinner, I know.
What happened?
We just happened to host it. It was good. It actually kept working out. It came together very quickly. In your closing day, what are you going to do here? What do you look forward to doing in your closing 24 hours here at HIMSS?
Well, we're all going to meet back with our leader, Trent Sanders, and we owe him 5 key new ideas that we're going to go home with.
Oh.
And that's what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to drive forward. Those are the next steps after this.
You should have been my first guest, because that would have been a great question to ask. What are 5 new ideas you're going to leave HIMSS25 with?
See, if I was first, then people would steal that.
They
would
steal your
take
idea.
that.
I know. I love that.
Then I can't claim it.
We're going to add that to our next show. I'm going to ask, what are your 5 ideas that you're going to leave? Or what do you want to see? Or in my last show, I asked them, what did you learn? What are the 5 things you're going to leave here with? I like that. Fantastic.
See, I'm giving you a little something.
You are. Tony Black,
we'll keep
Kyndryl.
up after this.
Thank you, my friend. Great to have you on air. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
You
awesome.
got it.
That's a wrap from Las Vegas and HIMSS25. Thank you all for listening. And I certainly want to offer a note of gratitude to the dedicated partners of my weekly syndicated show. And also, again, thanks to everyone who voted us 2024 Healthcare Podcast of the Year. Thank you so much, Roberta Mullen, Greg Masters, Carol Flagg, and the entire crew at the Healthcare Now Radio Network. They've also been producing my show for 11 years, and it's a true blessing to be able to do this every single year. Also, a special note of thanks to Jake Reed, my head of media. Jake did a phenomenal job managing our remote broadcast while here at HIMSS25 and recording from the conference floor and within the AMD booth, as well as the Amazon Web Services Theater. So thank you very much to Jake, and many thanks to all of my show partners, AMD and AWS, and also a shout out to Medallion here, who gave me water for my shows, certainly my lasting shows. So thank you very much to not only AMD and AWS, but certainly Medallion. And then also Bright Hour has a foundation that I want to make a special shout out to. Seppi Browning, Georgia HIMSS, she put together this new foundation to help with workforce development and education in health IT. So Seppi Browning, she's fantastic. HIMSS Georgia chapter, they're always great partners and supporters of my radio show. Great people. So look up Bright Hour Foundation and give her some love and support. And certainly a big thank you to Hal Wolf, Albie Zakes, Morgan Searles, the entire HIMSS team. They're always extremely supportive in the events and broadcasting requirements that I have. And again, thank you so much to all my listeners. We're grateful for you. You make us better with every broadcast. And that's a wrap from Las Vegas. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.